How's it going, everybody? This is Brian for Pop Culture Crossing, and today we are talking about our predictions for the Game Awards 2016. The award ceremony will be airing on Thursday, December 1st, 2016, and we wanted to get our predictions in before the actual ceremony. So this is our first episode of a new segment here at Pop Culture Crossing where we'll be doing award predictions. Obviously, we're doing the Game Awards now. We'll also be doing episodes for the Golden Globes and the Academy Awards. So because this is our inaugural episode, the format that we're doing right now is I'll be listing the categories and the nominees and making the picks for who Pop Culture Crossing thinks is going to win in the respective categories. It's not who I think personally will win or who I think should win or anything like that. It's who Pop Culture Crossing thinks is going to win the awards. Now, this is the format for this first episode here, so if you guys have any feedback or comments or suggestions before we get to the Golden Globes and the Academy Awards, be sure to let us know in the comments below or on our social media channels, and we'll think about trying to implement those before the other ceremonies. I'll also preface this by saying that there are a lot of games nominated here, and I have not played them all. However, I have my ear close enough to the ground in terms of the gaming and entertainment industries that I'll be able to make educated guesses for my predictions. So without further delay, let's get right into this. We'll be starting with Best Multiplayer Game, and we'll be culminating and building up to Game of the Year. So the first category for Best Multiplayer Game, we have Battlefield 1, Gears of War 4, Overcooked, Overwatch, Rainbow Six Siege, and Titanfall 2. So, in terms of this category, I think it's definitely going to be between Battlefield 1, Overwatch, and Rainbow Six Siege. Overcooked has also been very well received and is a very positive multiplayer game. So this could also sneak in there and steal the prize, but I think with Overwatch, just how powerful of a, really of a game that has been, and that it is an esport, that it has all this momentum, I think Overwatch will be winning for Best Multiplayer Game. For Best Sports or Racing Game, we have FIFA 17, Forza Horizon 3, MLB The Show 16, NBA 2K17, and Pro Evolution Soccer 2017. So I definitely think it's going to be between FIFA 17 and Forza Horizon 3 for this category. I kind of think the problem with annualized sports games that they can be very successful and positively received, but it's hard for them to innovate too much when you're on that annualized schedule. And I've heard a lot of great things about Forza Horizon 3. It seems like it's one of the best looking games on Xbox One and has very strong art direction and environments. And I actually think that Forza Horizon 3 has kind of been the shot of adrenaline that the racing genre specifically has needed. So that said, I think Forza Horizon 3 will win for Best Sports or Racing Game. For Best Strategy Game, we have Civilization 6, Fire Emblem Fates, The Banner Saga 2, Total War Warhammer, and XCOM 2. So Firaxis Games and 2K are the two big game development and publisher beasts in this category, with both Civilization 6 and XCOM 2. I definitely think it's going to come down between those two, but man, that's tough. But between those two, I think Civ 6 will win the award for that. For Best Family Game, we have Dragon Quest Builders, Lego Star Wars The Force Awakens, Pokemon Go, Ratchet & Clank, and Skylanders Imaginators. I think for this one, we're going to see it between Lego Star Wars The Force Awakens and Pokemon Go. The Force Awakens, the Lego installment, seems like it really did a lot to progress not only Lego Star Wars, but the entire Lego genre in terms of gameplay, especially with their combat mechanic advancements and like the cover systems and the whole new revamp that they've seen there. So that's very positive for that game. But Pokemon Go was such an atomic bomb of insanity when it released in terms of gaming that, and since this is family game, Pokemon Go is also nominated for best mobile or handheld game, but this particular category is for family game, and I think Pokemon Go really succeeded in getting people out of the house, doing that passive exercise. You see a lot of families together in the parks or walking around the cities. You have a lot of interactions there, and yeah, parents helping their kids, and also parents who grew up being Pokemon fans now helping instill that in their kids. So in terms of family game, I think it's between those two, but I think Pokemon Go is going to take the award for best family game. For best fighting game, we have Killer Instinct 3, King of Fighters 14, Pokken Tournament, and Street Fighter 5. I'd say it's going to be either Pokken Tournament or Street Fighter 5. You know, I think if Street Fighter 5 wasn't a nominee, then Pokken Tournament would probably be winning, but I'd probably say Street Fighter 5. Yeah, I think Street Fighter 5 is going to win the award for best fighting game. Best role-playing game, we have Dark Souls 3, Deus Ex Mankind Divided, The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt, Blood and Wine, World of Warcraft Legion, and Xenoblade Chronicles X. So it's kind of interesting because we actually have some DLC here with The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt, Blood and Wine, and that was such a titan last year at the Game Awards with The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt won Game of the Year, Best Developer, and Best RPG. But you of course have the Dark Souls 3 and the Souls game and their Souls games and their spin-off with Bloodborne seem to be very strong contenders for awards. Deus Ex Mankind Divided released, and that seems like it was well received by fans of the series. However, once August ended, you didn't really hear about it anymore. So I'm not sure what type of like staying power that's really had. But I think for best RPG, we're going to see it go to Dark Souls 3. For best action adventure game, we have Dishonored 2, Hitman, Hyper Light Drifter, Ratchet and Clank, and Uncharted 4: A Thief's End. So this is a tough category. I think we're going to see it with Dishonored 2 or Uncharted 4: A Thief's End. Now, Dishonored 2 seems like fans of the series really liked it. I'm not too sure how many newcomers it was able to bring in. But, I mean, you have Uncharted 4: Thief's End, Hitman as well, and then Ratchet and Clank, man. But I think overall for action adventure, it's gonna be awarded to Uncharted 4: A Thief's End. For best action game, we have Battlefield 1, Doom, Gears of War 4, Overwatch, and Titanfall 2. Now, Battlefield 1 obviously has been very successful, has a strong community behind it. Doom did a lot in terms of revamping the series as well as kind of really jump-starting the first-person shooter genre, just with the frenetic gameplay that it seemed to have, and just the speed and the fluidity of it all is quite impressive. But then you have Overwatch, which, as we mentioned, is such a juggernaut. But I think Doom is gonna get best action game just because of what it did for not only for the series but for the FPS genre as a whole. So Doom for best action game. Best VR game, we have Batman Arkham VR, Eve Valkyrie, Job Simulator, Res Infinite, and Thumper. And I will say, when I was reading the nominees for this, I was surprised that Until Dawn Rush of Blood was not nominated. Seemed like that was actually a dark horse VR game. A lot of people were skeptical that all of a sudden they're putting Until Dawn as a on-rails shooter. But a lot of people seem to really be impressed and pleased with the way that it ended up turning out. And obviously, Batman Arkham VR, get to beat Batman. And I honestly feel like it's not, like, it is new in terms that you're controlling Batman in the VR sense and not just with the traditional controllers. But I don't know how much of a new experience it really added. I feel like Job Simulator is really unique and adds a lot with its various simulations and just showing all the how that you can make like menial tasks seemingly fun and interesting in VR. So I think Job Simulator actually is gonna be winning the award for best VR game. For best mobile or handheld game, we have Clash Royale, Fire Emblem Fates, Monster Hunter Generations, Pokemon Go, and Severed. I honestly think Pokemon Go is easily going to win this award. I would be very surprised and dumbfounded if any of the other nominees get it, just because, like I said, of the juggernaut that Pokemon Go was and the seismic shifts that it caused in the industry and society at large. So Pokemon Go will be winning mobile or handheld game. For best independent game, we have Firewatch, Hyper Light Drifter, Inside, Stardew Valley, and The Witness. And I think for this category, it's going to come down to Firewatch, Inside, or The Witness. Firewatch obviously had a lot of the great artwork behind it. Narrative-wise, it was pretty divisive. Some people really liked it. I played it. The only one of those two that I haven't played, or of those three that I haven't played, was Inside. But I like Firewatch. I definitely understand how some people think that narratives were this spaghetti bowl and just confused, and that the third act pretty much just fell flat. I definitely see that happening and can empathize with that. But Inside was really well received and seemed like it did a lot in its own right. And then you have The Witness. So The Witness, of these three, The Witness is definitely, I would say, the most different of them, because you are just on an island doing puzzles, trying to figure out what's going on. And you don't really have this narrative that's pushing you forward like you do in Firewatch and Inside. Of course, Inside's just nobody knows what it actually means, but you do have this thing pushing you forward in terms of the story that you don't have in The Witness. But then Firewatch is a strong contender as well. I think Firewatch is going to take it for Best Independent Game. For Games for Impact Award, we have 1979 Revolution, Block Hood, Orwell, Sea Hero Quest, and That Dragon Cancer. I think for this category, it'll probably be either 1979 Revolution, Orwell, or That Dragon Cancer. With 1979 Revolution, like, how many games do you know that covered the Islamic Revolution in Iran? Yeah, exactly. For Orwell, it seems like that did a lot with just the Orwellian experience and like privacy and all that. That may have been a stronger contender if it would have come out closer to the Snowden revelations. But of course, we still have like WikiLeaks and other privacy concerns. So that is a strong contender. But then we have That Dragon Cancer, of course. And of these nominees, I think we're going to see That Dragon Cancer win for Games for Impact. So now we're down to the final few categories. So for best performance, we have Alex Hernandez as Lincoln Clay in Mafia 3, Cissy Jones as Delilah in Firewatch, Emily Rose as Elena in Uncharted 4: A Thief's End, Nolan North as Nathan Drake in Uncharted 4: A Thief's End, Rich Summer as Henry in Firewatch, and Troy Baker as Sam Drake in Uncharted 4: A Thief's End. So, in terms of Mafia 3, it definitely seems like the story of the game was one of the strongest elements, and I think tied into that is the performances. If you have weak performances, that's going to kind of drag your story down. And in the case of Mafia 3, it was just that their gameplay was lackluster, and sadly that impacted the entire thing. But in terms of the story and the acting, it seems like it's very strong there. Of course, you have Firewatch and Uncharted 4. I think Troy Baker is probably the least likely to win. I think if one of the Uncharted 4 candidates not nominated here is gonna win, it'll be either Emily Rose or Nolan North, because Baker's character was new to the series. I have a hard time seeing him winning. I think if Uncharted 4 is going to win here, it's definitely going to be for a character that has been active throughout the series, and that's either Emily Rose's character or Nolan North's character. But you know, Mafia 3, its story did so much in terms of advancing video game stories and showing these different perspectives and like race relations in the Vietnam War era. You know, I think Alex Hernandez is actually going to win here for best performance. For best music and sound design, we have Battlefield 1, Doom, Inside, Res Infinite, and Thumper. Now, I really think that this category conflates two very different elements. You have music and sound design. Those are completely different. And I hope that the Game Awards splits that up into two different categories moving forward. But right now, it's all just still under one category. Battlefield 1 has very strong sound. I thought there were some issues with some of the distance calibration in terms of the sound. Sometimes you'll be in an area and you'll hear like somebody screaming or yelling out, and it sounds like they're 3 feet away from you, but they're like 50 yards, and it's like, okay. But just in terms of the sound design of the armaments and the death sounds, those are very well done and very effective and convincing. Also, in terms of music, that has a very strong soundtrack and score. It really augments some of the story elements in the campaign, and there were times when, you know, you're at this emotional part in the campaign and the music starts, and like I almost teared up because I was like, holy cow, this is powerful. I hear Doom has a lot of good sound design as well, so that's very strong and impressive contender there. Same with Inside, with its overall sound design and its sound cues. Now, it is also interesting too, I'll note that I was kind of surprised here as well to see that Mafia 3 wasn't nominated, because this category actually covers licensed music as well. And if that would have been nominated, then Mafia 3 would have just easily won the award for this category. But it's not, so just aside. But I do think Battlefield 1, though there is some weird calibration distance problems, overall I feel like Battlefield 1 has strong sound design as well as the music. So Battlefield 1 will be taking the award home for best music and sound design. For best art direction, this is a tough category. We have Abzu, Firewatch, Inside, Overwatch, and Uncharted 4: A Thief's End. So part of this what makes this one so hard is that there's such diverse nominees. Of course, you have Abzu and Firewatch are more the artistic portrayals. With Abzu, you have these incredible art direction and this use of Neptunian and pelagic themes and environments. And the environments there are very diverse. And by the way, we have reviewed Abzu here at Pop Culture Crossing. For Firewatch, the art and just the fact that you were this fire lookout were two of the biggest hooks that got me interested in the game. And going into 2016, actually, Firewatch was really my most anticipated game. So, and the artwork is just so well done that you can use the camera to take cool shots, and just generally the artwork really does translate into like posters that you would actually really want to buy and put on your real walls. And Ollie Moss just hit it out of the park in terms of his art direction design there. For Inside, this has a also very distinct art direction and style. It seems to effectively use shadows to great effect. And then Overwatch, of course, is just very eclectic and colorful. And then Uncharted 4 is just photorealistic and one of the most visually impressive games on the PS4. So, like I said, there's a lot of diversity here in the nominees. I think it's gonna come down to Abzu, Firewatch, or Uncharted 4. Though Inside could definitely come in there and sneak in there. But in the end, I think Firewatch will be taking the award for Best Art Direction. For Best Narrative, we have Firewatch, Inside, Mafia 3, Oxenfree, and Uncharted 4: A Thief's End. And for this category, I think it's the two strongest contenders are going to be Mafia 3 and Uncharted 4. So as I briefly mentioned when talking about Alex Hernandez in Mafia 3 and his performance, just the story seems like that is the strongest part of the game, and it's important in telling this different type of story from a different perspective of a very volatile time and context. So I feel like Mafia 3 did a lot to push storytelling in video games forward. Uncharted 4's story is honestly one of the best stories that I've played. However, though it is great and impressive, it really doesn't offer anything new, or it doesn't push the industry forward or narrative storytelling. It is very impressive, but like I said, it just doesn't really... It does what Uncharted does, and this is the fourth main installment, fifth if you count Golden Abyss. So it's not like this is the first bombshell and it's like, holy cow, this is incredible. So I think that being said, we're going to see Mafia 3 win for Best Narrative. Just like I said, I think it did a lot in pushing the industry forward in terms of what they can do in telling different types of stories from different perspectives that we hadn't heard before. And that's pretty impressive to be able to do. So Mafia 3 for Best Narrative. For Best Studio and Game Direction, this is our second to last and penultimate category here. We have Blizzard Entertainment for Overwatch, DICE for Battlefield 1, id Software for Doom, Naughty Dog for Uncharted 4: A Thief's End, and Respawn Entertainment for Titanfall 2. So obviously, just going through all the nominees here, Blizzard, as I've said, Overwatch is just a huge juggernaut, incredibly popular, esport, has tons of power and momentum behind it. So Blizzard's been very impressive there. DICE with Battlefield 1 pretty much did what people think couldn't have been done. There were those reports that some of the higher-ups, when they were hearing the story or the concept being pitched, thought there's no way you can do a World War One story in a game, and yeah, how about them apples? So what DICE has been able to do with that is very respectable. For id, you have this effective, successful installment of Doom and really bringing the franchise up. But not only just for the Doom franchise, but for the FPS genre as a whole. So what it has been able to do is very impressive as well. Naughty Dog, of course, for Uncharted 4, just the way that they can just really do narrative and cinematic type of storytelling is, you know, uncomparable. They're really the only one that is doing that type of thing, and they're doing it to great effect. And then Respawn, a lot of people... Titanfall 2 was another pretty divisive game. A lot of people really like it and have been really impressed and drawn to it, and others thought that it was fine, but nothing to write home about. So, for those who think that Titanfall 2 is this great, emotional, and powerful story that is also, kind of like Doom, pushing the first-person shooter franchise forward, and it is very emotional, that's a tough contender as well. But in terms of these specific candidates, I think DICE for Battlefield 1 will be winning the award for Best Studio or Game Direction, just because it's incredibly impressive with what they are able to do, and they are able to clearly prove people wrong in thinking you can't tell this type of historical story in a video game. Yeah, well, you can. And you can to great effect. So I think DICE is going to be winning there. For Game of the Year, all right, the final category, we have Doom, Inside, Overwatch, Titanfall 2, and Uncharted 4: A Thief's End. So, like I said, Doom did a lot to really just its fast-paced, fluid gameplay, and in terms of the first-person shooter genre as well. Inside, you know, this crazy story and experience has been on some of the other reviewers' potential Game of the Year lists. And then, like I've said before, Overwatch is huge, and Titanfall 2, kind of divisive, but it definitely has its base. And then Uncharted 4. This is a really tough one, but I wouldn't be surprised if we see kind of a similar situation of what happened in the Academy Awards with the Lord of the Ring franchise, and with the Return of the King winning they won lots of awards, but that's not the point. But they won Best Picture, and it was the final installment here that finally took the award. I think we're going to see a similar thing for Uncharted 4: A Thief's End. Yes, some people think that Uncharted really isn't a dead franchise, that it's going to come back in some incarnation of some sort or the other. But I think because it really closed out that Nathan Drake story, and the epilogue just tied things together so beautifully, that we're going to see what happened with Lord of the Rings and the Oscars happen with Uncharted 4: A Thief's End taking home the award for Game of the Year at the Game Awards 2016. So those are my picks. What are yours? Be sure to let me know either in the comments here or on any of our social channels. I'll also be writing up the nominees and my predictions and putting those on popculturecrossing.com in case you want a written version to look at. And let me know your picks, and we'll keep the conversation going here. And hopefully you'll tune in to the Game Awards show, and we can be comparing our results together. I look forward to hearing your picks and seeing who actually wins coming up. So thanks for watching, and be sure to let me know if you have any comments or feedback about the format of this awards prediction video, and I definitely appreciate it. So I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye.